very different for different artists and different
projects or different works.
Yeah, or even the same artist from one project to the next. I mean, for example, Brian, what you were doing yesterday, which obviously is completely dependent on this kind of interaction with who passes by and how they respond to the various. Basically, you've set up a whole series of situations, but you're having a direct relationship with the audience through that. I've seen other works that are more installational contexts where it seems to be you're working, building something. People are interacting with what you're building as opposed to with you, particularly.
Yes.
So those are two different. I mean, that must require a different approach to how you're thinking about.
Yeah, that definitely there's a difference with the installation or installation pieces that work over maybe 2-3 days, building a space and a sensibility and an emotional experience, hopefully within a space. That's a planned out process in a sense, almost from the start, that I kind of know a sequence of events. You know, obviously there's variations within that, but I'm fairly clear of the stages I might go through.
Like, then I'll place the photos on these rocks, then I'll move that to that location.
You know, and with experience or time, I've come up with the idea that the audience might see one element of the piece, and you want to put something in 5 minutes or 10 minutes that they can read the longer process with, so you're actually trying to get an idea across in 10 minutes, but the emotional effect builds up over time. So that's a very different strategy for creating a performance for me. The piece yesterday, you know, in brief, I would have what I would call a range of possibilities, and I just decide, well, should I do this or not? On the time, like, I nearly decided not to bring any other objects out, just leaves, you know, and just to try and work with the leaves. And if there had been more audience, maybe at that time I would have left that. So it just depends on the situation and the moment, what things you work with. But I would, maybe through insecurity or fear, I would want to have a canon of opportunity. You know, I'm okay, I can always rely on that gas torch, you know. But
and if I don't use it, that's fine.
If I don't need it, it's okay. So it's like a vocabulary or a range of possibility, a range of words one can use, and if you need to, you use them.
And that's the first time I've ever used video, audio, and so for me it was like, well, how is this a performance art piece now, you know? And I knew it was beautiful video. I loved it. I really liked it. And so then I was thinking, you know, how do I interject myself now into this, you know, without fucking it up?
Too much.
Because, you know, I just enjoyed it myself, to sit and look and listen to it, right? So that was, and so I did have a method then. I didn't want too much to be random, you know, maybe it's because I've never, you know, I didn't work with video, I didn't know how to, you know, it was, so there wasn't, you know, great range of, you know, spontaneity and for other things to happen, you know, which was very unusual for me, and I felt a little self-conscious about it, but, yeah, but, so I did make it fairly set, but in other things, sometimes there's a beginning, sometimes there's an end in sight generally, and you don't know what'll happen in between, and sometimes you just have something to work with, an object, and you have no end in sight. You don't know where it, you know, how it'll go, and people can walk into it and change it, and yeah, so I've worked those ways too. So that was probably the most constructed sort of thing I've done.
Mm-hmm. And Maurice, you mentioned you started off, what got you on the trajectory you're on now was actually working on video originally, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, that was part of it anyway. Yes, definitely. It was an action and different actions, like 30 seconds with an object or without an object. And I recorded them to have a look at it myself, that what happens. For me that was really interesting. And I have presented some of those works once, I mentioned this before, I think, and then I saw people watching me on the screen doing this action, and somehow there would happen so much more, I think, when they were present, when the action would happen, with or without failure, or, I mean, there's so much more possibilities than, I mean, the recordings I did were also just one-offs. The idea, wreck, literally, and poof, and stop, you know, so it was a very simple beginning, but and I had a friend who performed, and he made a very strong actions, I think, and very frequent, weekly, usually without any objects, and yeah, I was always in awe, like amazed that the possibilities are endless, and yeah, for me that was a great drive to think of yeah, how to extend myself a little bit, yeah. But I have to also say, because I'm very often very confused about many things. But it's really great to meet and to talk to people, because it gives you a little insight in them and you self-reflect on them. So it's like this ongoing process of yeah, learning about your own abilities and disabilities and experiencing the other ones. And yeah, yeah. And I used to. Yeah, work on objects. I really say used to, because I don't do that at all anymore. I used to also draw a lot, and when I started doing actions, I prefer to call them actions. For me, it was natural to bring blocks of wood, because I could work on them with tools, which I really like, and then it kind of grew, and you drop things on the way, and you pick up new things, I think, and therefore you're always vulnerable. Which I also like, because if you're too confident about it, maybe then you lose a little bit this, at least I have had that I did an action which I knew from the beginning to the end, and then I did it again elsewhere, and it's not the same thing, you know, that for me it kind of broke a little bit off. And I do like to, I have an idea, I go and do it, and maybe I know that I can afterwards, that I can maybe perfection it a little bit, or that I just take certain elements from that and try to bring them further again. So it's like this confused all the time, you know. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I live off that a little bit.
But it sounds like those, the way you described those early actions, you know, and it said, oh, it almost sounds like it was accidental or a byproduct that there was this video that other people could see. It sounds like you were just kind of playing or experimenting.
No, it was very much playing, yeah.
You just wanted to see for yourself what it would look like, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to do this, and then the video will be an art piece or something like that.
And I'm very much afraid to lose that playfulness too, that it really starts becoming a thing. And sometimes I think I have friction with that, and I think maybe that's very recognizable for others, at least I hope so. And yeah, it starts questioning, you doubt about things. And the year before, I had the opportunity to perform regularly, so I did a lot, and you experience a lot, and I was very free, and then I didn't do something for a long period at all, and the bridge really gets longer and longer. I thought that maybe I cannot do this anymore, or so. And yeah, which I tend to believe that that's not true.
So how long was that break?
That break was, well, the last time I performed 3 weeks ago or so, I think, but that was the first time since last November, so that's almost a year. Yeah. And the year before that, I performed every month somewhere, except the month June, I think I remember. And yeah, that was really good at the time. I practically take every opportunity I get to perform. But yeah, in the end of the year, I was also really like, you know, it was just really a lot, and it felt really good to know that I didn't have things coming, that I wouldn't be like on and on and on and on. Because the year before that I also regularly performed, but a little less anyway. So I was happy to be off, but then also, yeah, I started to be very insecure. That, yeah, I would like to do something, and what am I going to do? How am I going to do that? Where am I going to do that? And, you know.
them in the